Hey everyone, I've decided to teach some of my favorite basic finger flourishes or exercises. It's also something I'm pretty decent at, so you're learning from someone who has been there and done that, at least with the actual fundamentals. So I'll give you some good tips. I know some pretty advanced stuff like finger shuffling. That looks better with a glove on. By the way, this is one of the most difficult finger routines you can possibly learn. Now, that is unbelievably difficult. Luckily, we're not learning that today. We're going to learn easier stuff. We're going to learn finger folds, but not these. This very basic one, I guess I'll go over it, but it was made famous in the magician world by Dave Buck. It was made famous globally by Greg Irwin. The thing I'm doing different than Greg Irwin and Dave Buck is teaching it from point of view, so that's going to help a lot. In addition to the very basic one, I'm also going to go over one that's, in my opinion, a lot more fun, which is to do two at a time. You can get bored. It takes longer to get bored of it because it takes a while to master this. And yeah, that's really fun as well. And then if we have time, I'm also going to teach you finger splits, also one of the most addictive things you can possibly learn. This is hard at first, but I got some really good pointers that'll help you. Okay, so let's get into it. Other than showing off, there are other benefits to finger flourishing. One being it keeps your fingers strong and independent from each other. There's hand-to-hand independence, and there's also finger-to-finger independence. So your hand does not try to copy the other hand, and your finger does not try to copy the other finger. That's really important in anything you do with your hands that's as complicated as cardistry. But anyway, let's get into it. Finger folding, you might know how to do this already if you've seen the trilogy. It was popularized by Greg Irwin. I don't know if he invented it or not. He didn't specify what he invented and what he didn't. But this guy's really famous. He's been on the Jay Leno show, the Letterman show, all that stuff. So anyway, all you're going to do is with your first finger, your first fingers, one goes over, one goes under, and you fold them down like that. And then you cross them back over. So that's the basic finger fold. You're going to do that with each finger. I'm right-handed and my finger always goes right side over first. I don't know if that'll vary for you, but for me it's the right finger goes over first and then around. First my right goes over, then my left goes over. And that is finger folds. And you go all the way down to your pinky. Now that you know how to do the bare bone finger folds, I'm going to teach you my favorite, which are doubles. You can also do triples and then go backwards, but my favorite, I don't do any of those. I just do doubles. This is enough to keep me entertained. You do the first two, same pattern, right goes over first, then under. Then you do the middle two, then you do the last two. Now my favorites are the every others, although they're difficult to master. This is the easiest one, so if you want to save the most difficult for last, you do this first. If you want to do the most difficult stuff first, then you do these, then these, then these. I normally do this first because it really startles your spectator when suddenly they see every other, and this isn't as startling, so I like to build up. Boom, 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 boom. So let's see what helped me develop this skill because it's hard, believe me. This is easy. I'm not even gonna go over this, but every other one's, I keep these connected, the ones that aren't gonna fold, and press in. This is how I personally developed this skill. I press these in, the middle and pinky, as hard as I can, and then I slip these over like this, and I'm pressing so hard that even though my middle finger and pinky want to do it too, they can't. So you might want to dry your hands, because if you got like sweat or I don't know, water on them, they might slip. They slip a lot with these exercises. Even with this, they tend to slip. Like my other fingers still try to move sometimes. So imagine what you're gonna go through with the doubles. But anyway, hold tight, then come around. That's what helped me develop this skill. And also, don't even bother with these. These are something that you're gonna be able to do right away. Just alternate these two, these two, these two, these two. I just did this all day. Sometimes multiple times, just this over and over and over and over again. Then this over and over and over and over again. And that's how I developed this. That's pretty much the only tip. Hold tight on the ones you're not folding. Okay, this is a finger splitting. It's important to know the different hand positionings. There's only two. There's the West Coast. It's kind of like West Coast, but like your fingers aren't crossed. Sometimes they are. See how they're slightly crossed? And it could help to cross them like this. But and the other one's like the Star Trek sign. This is difficult to do because your hand tries to do the same thing the other hand does, but the best habit breaker for that, normally people learn like this, then start doing the cross throughs. This was created by Greg Irwin, and he calls them the cross throughs, but I do the cross throughs first because it kind of forces your body to open up. Like when you're gonna close this, the only way it can cross through is to open this, and vice versa. You can't cross through without opening this. So what helped me when I was learning this is to, first of all, when I start this routine, my right hand starts in West Coast, my left hand starts in Star Trek, and I come in with the right hand, and then I close this and open this and come back through. So the hand that's in West Coast is always going inward. The one with the Star Trek is always going outward. Another thing that helped me develop this skill is don't cross perfectly through in the beginning. I had my fingertips barely crossing through the space. That way it's very difficult to collide, and it still looks pretty cool. So I had my fingers barely crossing through this opening. That's all the tips I can give you. That's what helped me develop it. Now here's some fun things you can try once you've mastered this. Also, yeah, curling your fingers in like this also helps a lot. It helped me a lot, curling the fingers in. Like if you're Spider-Man. Because you don't need to move the whole hand through and risk colliding these fingers. You just curl these in and then curl these in. And that's kind of how I cheated when I first started it. That helped me develop that skill. So enough with the basic one. Here's how you do more advanced stuff or some ideas. Do it like this. Once you've mastered the cross throughs, it'll be easier to do this, and it looks pretty cool. Another thing I like to do is figure 8. I keep the Star Trek symbol open. I cross through. This is something I came up with, the figure 8. I cross through, go Star Trek out, cross through, go Star Trek out. So I West Coast through the middle, Star Trek the top, West Coast the middle, Star Trek the bottom, like this. And this is very fun to do, and you can do it pretty fast once you practice it. And then same with the other hand. So the figure 8 cross throughs, and there's multitasking figure 8s where you come here and come here and come here. This is very difficult to explain, so just look at what I'm doing. I cross through the middle, Star Trek the bottom, but as I'm gonna do that, I split and go through the pinky, then I come back in. So every time one hand alternates, the other hand alternates, and this is confusing, but another fun piece to try in finger flourishing. And it's probably the most advanced one I've come up with. One Greg Irwin came up with is he puts the thumb through and just moves the top hand. It doesn't really matter if the top hand's doing the same or the different than what the bottom hand. If this hand's doing something different than the other hand, it doesn't really matter. When I do this, it's normally, for some reason right now it's opposite, but sometimes it's easier to do the same like this. Alright? Another habit you might run into with the finger splitting is your fingers might not switch to the Star Trek symbol. They might do this when I, like, you know, semi. So these wouldn't close, for example, right? That's totally fine because as long as you practice, you can easily improve to now going to this challenge. So it's not like a permanent habit. It's really easy to break. So those are my favorite basic hand flourishes, and those were my favorite to learn other than the finger shuffling. I might teach you that in volume 2 or another volume after this one. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. And I hope this helped you develop finger strength and dexterity, and also kill boredom, because when I don't have a deck of cards with me and I'm waiting for something, it can get pretty annoying, but this kind of helps a lot. There you go.